I said all throughout the campaign, if you're talking about democracy over the kitchen table, it's probably because you don't have to, you're probably not eating at the kitchen table, you're eating at the dining room table,
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about the cost of the food on the table.
Yeah.
And so, there's this just huge divide. But Bernie's, some of, I think he's identified perhaps with some of the excesses of the left on issues that are non-economic issues. I think he, more than anyone, has tried to sort of steer onto the economic path and stay there.
Well, there has been one politician who is no longer a Democrat, is an independent, who's been talking about this forever, and that's Bernie Sanders.
Well, not forever, just probably 60 years.
Forever in political.
It may seem
Uh,
like forever.
uh, but why hasn't the Democratic Party turned to him and said, you know what? Okay, actually, you were right, and we need to coalesce around your policy ideas.
Well, look,
You as
I
a
mean, there were,
candidate,
he did pretty well in his campaigns. He was the last guy standing with Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden got nominated in part because there was some fear of Bernie Sanders being the nominee of the Democratic Party. I think that, look, I think his critique in many ways is right. And I do think that, as I said, I think that on fundamental things, on the on the growth of wages and on healthcare and on so many uh, indices of how you measure your success. The working people in this country have gotten the short end of the stick. You think about the things we've been through. Globalization was jarring. It delivered tremendous benefits to some regions of the country and people who were well positioned to take advantage of it. It decimated communities. I'm sitting here in the Midwest, decimated communities all around us here, and middle class workers in those areas. Bernie's been right about that. The financial crisis, there are a lot of folks around this country who were decimated by that and felt like, if you were very poor, maybe you got help. If you were very rich, you got handouts. If you were part of the group that was involved in creating the crisis, you got taken care of. But if you were in the middle, you just kind of left to struggle for yourself. And that's the feeling that people had. And I was in the administration at the time, and we did lots of things that I think made a difference and prevented a larger crisis. But the fact that there was no accountability for the people who were responsible, I think helped radicalize a lot of voters. Bernie was certainly right about that. And
was
then the
there an internal debate in the White House about that at the
Sure.
time?
Yeah, because, and I think,
Hi, I'm Janice, and I am co-founder of Jews United for Democracy and Justice, as well as the America at a Crossroads weekly virtual town hall series. If you like this video, don't just watch. Head over to our website where you can subscribe for early access to new programs, see our upcoming schedules, and participate in our weekly live streams. You can also connect directly with our guests live on Zoom. Head over to JewsUnitedForDemocracy.org. Thanks for watching.
I don't think it's necessarily helpful to be a kind of wild-haired, self-proclaimed socialist in terms of winning American elections. And the party itself, look, I do believe that one of the luxuries that you have, even during this last campaign, I mean, we have the luxury, those of us who are well off have the luxury to think about a whole bunch of issues and worry about a whole bunch of issues other than, like, are people making it, and are they getting fairly compensated and all of that. I said all throughout the campaign, if you're talking about democracy over the kitchen table, it's probably because you don't have to, you're probably not eating at the kitchen table, you're eating at the dining room table,
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about the cost of the food on the table.
Yeah.
And so, there's this just huge divide. But Bernie's, I think he's identified perhaps with some of the excesses of the left on issues that are non-economic issues. I think he, more than anyone, has tried to sort of steer onto the economic path and stay there. So But yeah, I think, look, I give him credit. I think
But
he's,
if you took a candidate who didn't have wild hair and was grumpy,
you can see I would not, I'm not the first, I'm not, I should be the last guy to complain about wild hair. I'm
same.
jealous of anybody who has hair, but uh,
But if you took someone who was, I guess, more telegenic, if you will, I don't know. I don't know what
I think Bernie does very well on TV.
yeah, I mean,
You
there's
know,
an authenticity to him that is very
you use an important
crucial.
word there, authenticity, which I think increasingly is the coin of the realm.
Thank you for joining us. Join us again next week. Next week, Larry Mantle will be talking with David Ignatius about foreign policy. And I will see you soon.